The first part is a reading. In this section, you will have to read 2 passages, approximately 700 words long, and answer 10 questions after the passage. The great thing is that when you look at the questions, you will also have a chance to look at the text, so you don't have to memorize the whole text. And the first thing you should do is actually get acquainted with the text. Skim through it, understand the main idea, don't really read into details, but understand what each paragraph is talking about, because it's going to be easier for you to answer questions after that. The second tip, understand what are the keywords for this text and kind of remember which paragraph they're mentioned in, because a lot of questions will be related to those keywords. The next tip is for perfectionists like me. Sometimes I feel stuck on a particular question. So if you feel stuck, just remember that this question was kind of weird, I'm gonna come back to it later and do that. Because if you spend too much time overthinking the question, first you're gonna run out of time and you still have more questions after this one, because the more time you spend on this question, the more chance there is that you're gonna be wrong. Another tip for the reading section, when you see the text, try to ignore the words that you don't know. However, there is a huge chance you'll get a question related to that complicated word, because this is what they do. They give you some advanced words and they check whether you understand their meanings. Not always, right? Sometimes you just don't know the word and you could be lucky that there is no question related to that word. So during your initial text assessment, just skip them. I'll ask you to try to do at least 2 reading tasks before your test. At least 2. Just to understand how it works from your brain perspective, but also to understand what type of texts they give you. Some people say go straight to reading questions. For me, I still read through the text really quickly to understand what's going on, to understand what the main subject is, because it's a lot easier for me to answer simple questions that follow the text. Some questions will be more complicated, so I'll need to go back to the text, but with some questions, you don't even need to reread the whole thing again. So questions are gonna ask you for factual information. What is this text mainly about? And always look for those words like mainly, primarily, because the text can have several topics and the answers will point at them, but they will also be the main topic. So you really need to make sure you're reading the question correctly. Now the text will have a certain phrase and you're going to be asked what this phrase means. That's why, idioms. Then you're gonna have a vocabulary question, and we're gonna talk about vocabulary in this video. You're gonna be asked to simplify a sentence. You will also be asked to insert a sentence where it makes the most sense in the text. And you will also asked to create the main summary of the text with the sentences that they give you. Now, if you do the reading section test twice before the actual test, that would help you tremendously, because you will know what to expect from each question and what kind of answers they're looking for. Another tip from me, if you have doubts about a certain question, complete the whole part. If there is some time left in the end, you can go back to that question and revise it again and see whether the answer is right or wrong. Fun fact, I did it 3 times on all my tests. I completed the reading section, went back to a couple of questions that I was doubtful about, and I changed my answers. And on all of the I think on all of the tests, I got 30 out of 30 on reading. Because sometimes when you continue with the reading part and then you go back to the question, it kind of makes more sense. I don't know how to explain it, but this is how your brain works. Sometimes you're just digging too deep into the text. You're trying to find details that are not there. And sometimes the question is just easy and basic, and you're you just need to go back in a relaxed mode and answer the question. So do that. That helped me a lot. Now, if you have some time, of course, brush up your vocabulary. There are lists of words that are frequently used in TOEFL tests. We have a lot of those words in our TOEFL prep course, where you can find all the necessary checklists and lists of words that you can brush up before your actual test. I will leave the link below, but think about words like sustain, proximity, decline, obtain, mundane, exploit, distribute, deplete, essential, crucial, primary, former, thrive, feudal, conventional, secure. A lot of these words are used in the actual TOEFL test, and when you have this vocabulary question, for example, what does the word empower mean in that sentence? That could be one of your TOEFL questions. So it's really useful for you to know meanings of those words in different contexts. So if you have a question like, Marina, where can I find all of those tests? There is the official ETS website where they have free practice tests. They have several parts. You can go ahead and practice there. If you want more guidance, like if you want to watch a class where a teacher explains what's the right answer, how to look at the question, that's something that you can find in our TOEFL course.